A lot of stuff's happened with your favorite football team over the past few days. A lot of names in, a lot of names out. But I've got a feeling we're all at least a little bit collectively guilty of ignoring one of them in particular. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates, the other two teams I cover, the same place you found this. My friends, Patrick Peterson is a Steeler. This is not a small thing. This is not a sideways transaction that you want to throw into a pile of bunch of free agents that they picked up. And I'm not 100% sure why we seem to be reacting as such. And you'll note that I'm not making an exception of myself, because if you go back over the first few shows of this week, I'm as guilty as anyone. I pretty much glossed over the guy. The obvious reason that we'd overlook him is that he's going to turn 33 in July and he's a corner. Those two things, those don't make sense. I don't care how great you are. I don't care how accomplished you are. However, but if you look at Peterson's ledger and go backward, it's probably a healthier approach, because this past season for the Vikings, he had 5 interceptions. You've probably heard that one by now. That's a tremendous figure. He also had 15 passes defensed, which is out of this world. Dude had his hand on the football every game. Opposing quarterbacks had a rating of 79.6 when they were targeting him, which means it wasn't a very good idea to target him. He had 4 missed tackles. If you want to get into more of the Steelers type discussions, because Mike Tomlin has always liked having his corners capable of moving up to the line of scrimmage. What can you expect at Point Park University in downtown Pittsburgh? Respect, rigor, relevance. That's the Point Park Pledge. You'll be treated with respect while being challenged and supported academically to graduate with career-ready, relevant skills. Visit pointpark.edu to learn more. He's 6'1", 219. He hasn't shrunk. He certainly doesn't have the same peripherals that he had back when he floored everyone in the combine forever ago. But he can move, and he can use his brain, and he can do a lot of those things that we saw Joe Hayden do when he came over from Cleveland that really settled the entire secondary for the Steelers. You don't need Patrick Peterson to be an 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro as he was in Minnesota in Pittsburgh. You really don't. All you need is for him to be an upgrade over the player that he replaced, and I believe he's going to be that, because Cam Sutton wasn't doing any of these things that we're talking about. Now, Cam had other skill sets. Cam could bump inside. Cam could go in and out repeatedly over the course of a game, like from down to down. That was quite the weapon to have. But when it comes to just a pure outside corner, this is one of the better players who's ever done it. Why do we not know that? Why do we not realize that? Maybe it's because he's in the NFC. Maybe it's because the Vikings are a team that the Steelers don't see hardly ever. There was that debacle up in Minneapolis in the 2021 season, and there was the game in London a few years ago. But other than that, and Super Bowl IX, I'm running out of Steelers versus Vikings examples. On top of everything else, this is a pretty good dude who made quite the impression at his press conference yesterday on the South Side.
The passion, that this city have for not only the Pittsburgh Steelers, but for, sports in general. For me, and being a defensive player, when you have the fans, making it hard for an opposing team, even on the road, because I can remember being a Cardinal fans and seeing a bunch of terrible towels taking over that stadium. So being a defensive player and going on the road and seeing your fans do that, it makes you want to play that much harder. It makes you want to bring that W home that much more. So it is quite an honor to finally be a part of, this organization, this rich tradition that this organization has. So very, very blessed. And Brian told me that this fan base is like no other. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
That's pretty cool. And look, he doesn't have to be great for multiple years. He has said himself that he plans to go 2 more years. That's it. And again, I'm saying that's it as if it's nothing. He'll be a 36-year-old corner in the NFL. If he doesn't make it to the second year, oh well, they'll probably have gotten a good year out of him as it is, and they'll have gotten it at a fair price with a $7 million annual cap hit. But also, here's something else to consider. I'm not going to say that this team had secondary issues as it related to confidence, because I'm not going to say that this team had secondary issues. I know that's a popular sentiment because we only ever remember the times that they get burned. But for the most part, this team was exceptional back there as a unit, certainly when it came to taking the ball away. Tied with the 49ers for number 1 in the NFL with 20 interceptions. Again, another stat that no one ever talks about. We know Minka makes picks, but this team overall had 20. And now you add this guy? Look, I'm not oversold on Levi Wallace as a starting corner, but I also don't see him as the end of the world the way some do. If you have Patrick Peterson, you have Levi Wallace, you add some kind of depth, whether it's keeping James Pierre or doing something else, then you go into the draft and you do what everyone thinks the Steelers are going to do, then everything makes a whole lot of sense. But Peterson, in and of himself, okay, just his acquisition is quite the thing. Just as Hayden was, and just as at the time not everyone appreciated the magnitude of Hayden's acquisition. I remember this vividly. The people who are really, really, really super insiders on football and pay attention to every little thing, they got it. And even then with Hayden, it was easier because he was coming from inside the division. We'd seen Hayden make an impact against the Steelers, but this is a special talent. This is someone who's going to the Hall of Fame. And he gets to stop in Pittsburgh along the way. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by the personal injury law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George, LGKG. They represent people who are hurt in car accidents, who need help with workers' comp, who filed for medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at LGKG have been keeping promises in our region for over 80 years. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454.
Today's J1Q isn't a question at all, but it cracks me up, so I'm going to use it. Comes from Brad Richards, who says, TK, 4 days in a row now. You're on a roll. For anybody who doesn't know what Brad's referring to, every Daily Shot episode this week, Monday through Thursday, has cited a specific position of need that the Steelers still need to address through free agency. And every day along the way, that's happened within a matter of hours of that show hitting your devices. So, what can I do today to try to bolster the Steelers roster? Oh, wait, I know, I've got one. How about bringing Bud Dupree back home? Now, I've obviously brought this up before. I reported exclusively 3 weeks ago that the Steelers were interested in getting Bud back if certain things had occurred in Nashville. Well, guess what? They formally occurred yesterday with Bud being released by the Titans, as I predicted that he'd be. What you knew at the time from my reporting was that the Steelers very much were interested in having Bud back under the condition, the obvious condition, that he'd pass all of their physicals. And not just the, the run-of-the-mill stuff because Bud's had some issues, some lingering issues, while he was with the Titans, specifically related to his hips. And I say hips, plural. It's something that's been bugging him for a while. It's kept him from having that same explosion that he's had in the past. So I'm not going to sit here and get presumptive over what the doctors might find or not find. But I can repeat for you that the Steelers are interested. I can also share with you today, as I did in our Point Park University Friday Insider feature on DK Pittsburgh Sports that I do each week, that Bud very much wants to come back. I hadn't been aware of that side of it until this week. Now I am, and now you are. Bud has no issue whatsoever with playing behind or alongside, or however it would get termed, TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. There are obviously situations that Bud could go and pursue if his principal aim was to start. He's 30 years old, which isn't a kid, and he does have the health issue. So I'm going to say yet again that all of this is presuming the clean bill. But he also knows that in Pittsburgh, the outside linebacker position is a three-man starting rotation. It just is. It's been that way, well, since it was TJ and Bud, and they would tap in, tap out, only they were doing it with Anthony Chickillo and the like. This would be something else entirely, and it might be another way to guarantee that Bud's health will hold up. In other words, if you tell Bud, listen, we're going to use you here, but we only need to use you on a 25 to 30 snap rotation. Go nuts. Let it all out. Be Bud to do the whole Tasmanian devil thing. But make sure you're taking care of yourself too. So there, how'd I do? Huh? That's right. They're going to go sign Bud like the moment you listen to this. The next thing you're going to hear is get a ding on your phone and it's going to say, Steelers sign LB Bud Dupree. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We'll do another one of these on Monday, after which we'll do even more of the humble brag stuff.